Assalamualaikum guys. Diego Lopes is fighting Steve Garcia next week in the White House card. Now, of course, Diego Lopes will finish this guy. Like, there's no doubt. And the thing is, there's one man who I wanna talk about instantly. That is Yair Rodriguez. Where the hell is Yair Rodriguez? Like, honestly, when this fight was announced, right, I was like, okay, Steve Garcia. Yeah, I know he's coming off of a good win, and this might be, a fight which allows him to enter the top five, right? However, there's no chance he'll win Steve Garcia, and secondly, the perfect opponent for Diego Lopes at this point was Yair Rodriguez, because bro, like, that fight would have been amazing, because firstly, for the White House event, right, that fight sells itself, because we know the rivalry and the beef between those two, right? Those two fought at the same event in UFC 314, which was, by the way, the last time Yair Rodriguez actually fought. Yeah, bro has been extremely inactive, to say the least, and since then Diego Lopes already had two fights, of course, in a rematch with Volkanovski and a knockout over Gene Silva, right? And now Diego Lopes is having his third fight. Meanwhile, there's still no sign of Yair Rodriguez. He still doesn't have a fight coming up, bro. But yeah, as I was saying, right, that would have been a perfect fight for the White House event, because firstly, you have the rivalry, of course, and secondly, it's a very high level competitive matchup, because right now for Diego Lopes, right, he's slowly turning into the boogeyman of the featherweight division, because of course, he took out an amazing, a really hungry up and comer in Gene Silva, who has looked amazing ever since, of course, beating someone like Arnold Allen, right? Very impressive. So Diego Lopes at this point, if he would have fought someone like Yair Rodriguez, who isn't the most impressive these days, in my opinion, because I personally don't rate Patricio Pitbull that high at this point, because initially I was hyped, but after seeing that performance, right, it just didn't look high level. Rodriguez versus Pitbull, and ever since that, of course, Patricio Pitbull, right, he won a fight against, I believe, an unranked guy, and then lost to Aaron Pico, which was expected. Losing to Aaron Pico is pretty respectable in my opinion for someone like Patricio Pitbull. But yeah, for Diego Lopes right now, if he were to fought Yair Rodriguez instead of Steve Garcia, Steve Garcia, it's a good name, don't get me wrong, but he hasn't been tested at the top level, bro. And for someone like Diego Lopes, who is, I believe, other than, let's say, Volkanovski, right, Volkanovski and Movzar, he is the best in the world right now. Or you could even make a case that Diego Lopes wins a rematch against Movzar, just because how good he has looked against Gene Silva, and a lot of people would have definitely struggled against Gene Silva, and Diego Lopes, he's slowly turning into the next Max Holloway at this point. Like, genuinely, because you guys remember, right, like a few years ago, during the entire Volk Holloway era, right, those three fights, Max Holloway, he was basically the best featherweight on the planet, right? He was beating the shit out of everyone, but he didn't have a skill problem, he just had a Volk problem. I guess you could say, because he lost the first fight, which was very close, and then the second fight, which was a lot closer, and in the third fight, when the trilogy was announced, he was just looking a bit, I don't know, just demotivated to some degree, right? And of course, that was a clear decision, right? 15 rounds between those two, by the way, Max Holloway and Volkanovski, crazy. And same thing with Max Holloway and Dustin Poirier, right? So Max Holloway has 30 rounds just between him and two other guys. 30 rounds, boys. You understand that? Crazy, bro. And all of them were either main event. Oh no, sorry, Dustin finished him, right? Okay, so I guess 26 rounds, 27 rounds, still a lot, impressive. But yeah, as I was saying, I'm sliding away from the main topic. But yeah, anyway, as I was saying, right, Diego Lopes, he's beating the shit out of every single one of these guys, bro. Like, he will probably get a finish in the White House, right, against Steve Garcia, and honestly, that would be a very amazing way to open the card for such a big event. And it's just great. And honestly, I have a thought about the White House card. I really hope that there aren't many advertisements during this entire event, because we really need, since the matchups are so stacked, obviously, Michael Chandler versus Mauricio Rufi, just to mention one, and since the matchups are so stacked, right, we need as much in-depth content as possible. I know I'll be watching every single one of the embedded vlogs, if they actually do it, and it's just gonna be huge, this entire card. And of course, you can imagine, the cinematic background and everything else, crazy. But yeah, as far as this fight goes, yeah, of course, Diego Lopez is gonna get the finish, like duh. And for those who are picking Steve Garcia, I honestly, I don't see him having a chance at this point. And he might make it all the way to the 3 rounds, and Diego Lopez might win the decision. But still, I don't see how Diego Lopez loses this fight. And after this fight, what do you do with Diego Lopez? Like, Movzar is fighting Volkness, of course. So for Diego Lopez, I guess Leon Murphy or Yair Rodriguez would be good. But at this point, I don't think Yair Rodriguez deserves Diego Lopez. After sitting out for so long, is just like, I know that fight would be exciting. I would love that fight, but it's just, he has been way too inactive, Yair Rodriguez. So for Leon Murphy, right, stepping back with, even though it's gonna be a hard matchup for Leon Murphy, especially coming off such a tough loss, right, having a hip surgery. It's gonna be very difficult for Leon. But if he actually manages to beat someone like Diego Lopez, right, then I believe he's next after Movzar Evloev. But yeah, anyways, that's my entire breakdown. But another thing I want to mention is that, yeah, I am starting the, of course, I'll be predicting every single fight for this mega event, right? But yeah, I have decided to start early, and for this week's event, Belal Muhammad versus Gabriel Bonfim, I'll do the main event and the co-main event prediction tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. And the day after that day, I'll be doing the Chris Bellum Smith versus Rokizi fight, I believe that guy's name is. But yeah, until then, that's my take on this, guys. You guys definitely make sure to what you guys think. Inshallah, see you guys next time. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.